Good evening, December 9th, 2025 Select Board meeting. Welcome everyone. Do we have any public comment this evening? No? Hi Misha. Okay, any agenda changes? Nothing from me. Okay. We will start with the audit discussion. Rick, that means you're up, and if you would introduce yourself, and we will introduce ourselves. I'm Devin Corrigan, Chair of the Select Board.
Joel Taplin. Harvey Blake.
Rebecca Campbell.
Haley Whitehouse.
And Camilla, our Vice Chair, is absent this evening, unfortunately. But
That might be her
Okay.
on iPhone. I'm
Oh.
not really
Hey
sure.
everybody, I'm Rick Brigham, partner with Sullivan Powers and Company.
hi, Rick. Thanks for being with us.
Yep,
Okay, so I think the floor is yours. Would you?
yeah, so why don't I just
Take it
take a
away.
few minutes and kind of walk you through the audit report for last year and just kind of go over the highlights of it, and then we can kind of talk through any questions you might have. So there's a lot of information here. It's 44 pages long. Obviously, one of the things I always like to point out, if we're looking at the report itself, if you go to page 3, the top paragraph, the responsibility for this report, so it'd be actually page 3 of the 44 for the audit.
Oh, okay.
The,
Got it. The other one.
In the book.
yes.
Oh, in the book. Okay, I don't have the book filed. It stands.
So anyway, the first paragraph there talks about management is responsible for the preparation of the fair presentation of the financial statements. So really this financial statement is the responsibility of the staff, management, and board there for all the things you guys do through developing policies, paying disbursements, paying bills, setting up controls and processes. My job is to come in and do some testing, work confirmations, a bunch of other audit steps to come up with an opinion on the financial statement. So technically, my role is really pages 1 through 4. So when you're giving an audit opinion, you have 3 different choices. You basically have the financial statements are not fairly stated. There's a bunch of things wrong with it, so these are not fairly stated. The next one would be you have what we call a qualified opinion. Your financial statements are fairly stated except for something. And then you have an unqualified opinion. The only qualification we had for the town of Warren was the fact that the capital fund seems to have a bunch of information in it that is not only capital in nature, but also is special revenue fund in nature, some of it's wastewater fund in nature, and some of it's general fund in nature. So in order to properly classify those, we would want those broken out into those proper funds to make sure they're presented in accordance with GASB. So that's really the only qualification is related to the capital fund and how it gets shown. And we've already talked with, and we'll talk a little bit about it, I'm sure in a little bit. We've already talked with the staff there and Harvey. We've kind of set up a plan to kind of go and make sure this is fixed for 25 and to make sure that these funds are broken out and so that this will no longer be an issue or a qualification for you.
Okay.
So if we're looking at pages 7 and 8, so these are what we call the fund financials. So this is taking your major funds, which is basically your general fund and your capital fund. If you look at page 7, this is what we call the balance sheet. This is a snapshot in time as of December 31, 24, what your assets and what your liabilities were coming down to your fund balance. And you can see your unassigned fund balance in the general fund back then was 360,907. Not much reason to be getting into that at this point because we're already a year late on this. So you're probably in a much different position now, either better, positive, or negative. But this is kind of ancient material as far as the numbers go.
Rick, sorry, just pause there. I'm on page
Yep.
7, and you said 36.
316,907, the unassigned fund balance down under the fund balance section.
I see it.
So
Thank you.
you've got your assets and you got your liabilities. Whatever you take your assets, you subtract your liabilities, then you have your fund balances. And we always seem to focus on something else. And in your case back then, it would have been 360,907. And then you'll see the capital fund had 3,742,460. And that third column is all the other funds, which if you went to the back, like on pages 38, 39, you'd have the library fund, cemetery fund, records restoration. Those all get rolled up into what we call the non-major funds and come forward here. But if you're looking for the detail on that, those are in the back schedules for each of those funds. If you're looking at page 8, this is basically your income statement for the major funds. This is where your revenues came in, where your expenses were for the different funds, and where you ended up in your net position at the end of the year. If we're looking at page 9 of the financials, this is your wastewater fund. Same kind of situation. This is your balance sheet. We can see your assets, your liabilities. Your net position is 112,235 at this point in time. Last year was like, the year before was 107,609. So not much significant change in the net position of the wastewater fund. So pages 13 to 29, I'm not going to look at any one of them individually, but if you're looking for a deeper dive into what notes you have outstanding, what cash is insured, what's collateralized, what your fund balances can be used for, there's a lot of great detail in here. So if you're looking for a much deeper dive into the numbers, you can look at these footnotes and it gives you a lot of great information in there. If you're looking at pages 30 through 36, these are what you're used to seeing probably throughout the year. These are your budget versus actual reports, which I'm assuming you get on either a monthly or quarterly basis. That kind of tells you where you are as far as, you know, your year-to-date activity, and try to make sure you're staying within budgets either on revenues or expenses. So I'm not going to get too much into those because I don't think those change much from the audit from what you've seen before. And again, pages 38 and 39, those are the other small funds we talked about. Again, a balance sheet and an income statement for these funds: the library, cemetery, records restoration, the ARPA. Shows you where everything ended up at the end of the year with all their revenues, expenses in the balance sheet. So as far as when we perform an audit, we're required to communicate any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we find in the course of doing the audit. We found basically, four things that we wanted to talk about. I don't want to go into great detail because, again, we've already kind of talked to the staff about it. But one of the things we want to make sure is, in small towns, segregation of duties for controls is a really important thing. Making sure somebody who's reconciling the bank accounts isn't signing the bank account, but signing the checks. Trying to divide up the duties so that one person isn't doing everything is really key in small towns. So one of the things we like to see is, as much as you can within the staff there, is to have somebody else reconcile the accounts other than the check signer, and try to, as far as all the rest of the internal controls, make sure there's good offsets related to deposits, related to paying bills, that kind of stuff. But this is more related to cash. And then the second one was just making sure when you do those reconciliations that they're actually proving to the numbers in the NEMRIC trial balances. And I think during the course of the audit, there had to be a few adjustments that had to be posted to get it to agree. So this is just a record. Whenever we have to do those kinds of adjustments, we need to report a recommendation on that. So that's what that is.
And I think we've started monthly bank recs a few months ago, right, Dana? Done by NEMRIC, so done by an external party and reconciled.
Yeah, correct. Exactly, just what I had written you, Rick.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
so, yeah.
And so as far in small towns, as far as controls, you guys are always great about, okay, the board's going to sign the warrants, department heads will sign off on invoices. But one of the other things, if there's any journal entries that are done to the system, moving account transactions from one account to another, any sort of corrections, we always like to make sure there's a second pair of eyes on those, and that somebody is reviewing those and signing off on those. So you'll see on 24/20/03 on page 43, we're just suggesting you keep a journal entry binder that all the backup is attached to every journal entry and that somebody's reviewing them and signing off on those. And then the last thing is just, again, netting of revenues, expenses. I think this mostly related to the capital fund, because in the capital fund, I think a lot of, if you had one of your capital activities, the revenues and expenses were going into the same line items. And our recommendation is always to have the revenues separate from the expenses so that they don't have to be dissected apart to figure out what happened within the fund. So that's just making sure that those revenues are grossed up and those expenses are grossed up for the activity that occurred during the year.
So, sorry, Rick, so 1 and
Yep.
2 were material deficiencies,
Yep,
and we've corrected those.
yep,
And 3 through all the rest
three
of
and four, three and four are just significant deficiencies.
significant.
Yep. There's,
And
so,
those are
I-
easily
I
correctable.
think those are easily correctable, exactly. And I think we talked about it when I was there and kind of met with you. So
Yeah.
I think though, I feel like.
Rick, as you know, Janelle had seen all those paperwork and corrections. All those corrections were always signed off by a department head or the town administrator. So none of those were just, type of
Yeah.
wing it type of
Yeah.
things.
Gotcha.
They weren't made without the department head asking for the correction, like fire department finding that a utility. So
Yeah.
those were never, as part of that corrective action
Yeah.
letter, you had seen that already.
Okay.
And you had already reviewed that for the 2023 one also.
Gotcha.
So-
Okay. And we did also, so as part of the audit, we're not required to report any other recommendations. Other recommendations are just things that, hey, these are things we noticed, things you might want to think about doing. They're not required to be in writing. As a firm policy, we always put them in writing. So if you're looking at the management letter, which is that other document, you'll see besides those 4 points that we just talked about, you'll see things related to documentation of internal control systems, updating some uniform guidance policies, putting in accounting procedures manual. You'll see a few other things there. Again, all those have been discussed and are not required to be done, but just things that we think you should be thinking about as you're going forward and heading into new year.
Now, things like documentation of internal control system, fraud risk assessment, are these things that you could provide us a quote on or for
Well,
independence reasons?
I can't create your internal control system, but I can give you samples of what other towns have done to document theirs, which I thought we had already done, but I can definitely do that again and send you another one.
I have the
But-
copy of it, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, it's a great example to use and then to guide it to your own policies and procedures to make sure it's tailored to you specifically. But a lot of the things will be relatively the same, so.
Great.
And the only other thing, I guess if I would look at a sense of importance on the other recommendations, uniform guidance policies, if you get into getting any big grants, I would probably try to have those new uniform guidance policies, which are all policies that the federal government wants in order to give you grants and in order for you to perform the functions under the grant agreement in accordance with the standards. So they want to have these policies updated in accordance with their uniform guidance regulations. So I have examples of those. I think I've shared those, but if somebody doesn't have those, feel free to email me and I can get you samples of those as well.
Thank you. Do we have samples of those? Do we know?
Sorry, I was.
That's okay. Uniform guidance policies.
For federal grants.
I believe so, but I guess if you wanted to share those with us, Rick.
Yep, I'll make myself a note right now.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's all I really wanted to talk about. Like I said, if you wanted to talk more about the capital fund, we could do that. I know Harvey had left me a message yesterday about trying to discuss how to go forward into 25 and get that corrected so that the funds are in accordance with the standards and mirroring the financial statements. And I'd be glad to talk with Harvey personally, or if you guys wanted to discuss it as well, that's fine too.
Maybe a brief discussion,
Okay.
and we could follow up.
So yeah, if I was trying to accomplish this task from your perspective, I would find out all the different kinds of funds that are combined into the capital fund. I would break them out and I would create a document that would be, okay, let me just see if I can give you examples. Let's see here. So yeah, you've got, like, for example, you've got fire department equipment fund, town mapping fund. All these different funds are combined into one thing. What I'd like to see is a document that breaks all these out and says, hey, here's what the highway equipment fund is for. Here's, it's for highway equipment purchases, it's for general maintenance, is it, laying out what the detail of what this money can be spent on. And then I would also be trying to find out what was the source of this original money when this was created. Was it a grant? Was it a transfer? Was it tax money? Was it voted by the taxpayers to set aside reserves? This will help create kind of a guideline or a mapping of this should be a special revenue fund. Normally those would be grants. You get a grant in, reappraisal, those kinds of things would normally be special revenue. Capital are pretty easy to determine what they are because we're spending it for capital in nature, building improvements, new equipment, things like that. And then there's things like, for you've got in here the Warren wastewater system money. So you've got, again, the wastewater should be included with the wastewater fund to be combined with that, not in a separate capital fund. So that should be tracked and maintained separately. But again, I would be finding out what exactly are we supposed to be spending that money on, and what was the original source of the money coming in. Then you can create a mapping of where you want these expenses to go, and making sure we now include in the special revenue funds those that are special revenue, in the capital those are capital, and in the wastewater the ones that are wastewater.
This is that capital plan that we,
Page,
Yeah.
page 37 is the list of them.
And the idea being that this document sort of lives alongside the capital fund, not that it needs like separate accounts for everything, but that everything is accounted for.
Exactly. It's really right now, like I said, everything's being tracked in this capital fund, which I'm okay if you want to keep one capital fund that's everything in just capital in nature. That's perfectly fine, and then I might create a separate one that is, hey, these are the ones that are going to be special revenue in nature, and then I would move this wastewater one over to the wastewater fund. And that, when I say all this movement, it's basically within the NEMRIC trial balances, within the accounting system. So a lot of my clients will have a separate fund within the accounting system for every one of those, funds. Like I said, the equipment fund or the conservation fund or the library, the town planning. They would all have their own fund, whether here's the due to from, here's the revenues that come in, whether it's transfers, interest, and then expenses. And that would be reported right on my audit report. It would mirror each other. But like I said, I'm perfectly okay if you want to just put all the special revenues together and all the capital projects together, and then figure out which the wastewater, what might have to move to general fund. But again, that mapping of those breaking out those different funds and what this can be spent on will help us guide in those directions.
And we don't have to move money, this is just journal entries.
Nope, this is just journal entries, exactly. It shouldn't create any more work, but it is going to give you a lot more information, and you won't have to dig into the numbers as much when you're trying to figure out, hey, where did the town building renovations, what came in for interest, what came in for revenues, what came in for transfers, and what did we spend it on? Because it would reside in its own unique fund, or it would reside in the capital project fund specifically.
When I spoke to Nemrick last month,
Yeah.
when she came out to reconcile, she was going to do that, and we were gonna do each fund for each,
Yep.
in the
Okay.
general fund, sorry, for you. But we didn't, she knew which ones because she has done it in the past for
Yeah.
other towns.
Yep.
We didn't have a list from you, so we didn't do that at that point.
Yep.
I called Janelle, found out that you were out for that day or whatever
Yeah.
the scoop was. So if we can get
If you can,
Yeah.
if you can create that list for me of,
That-
here are the funds, and
Okay.
here's where the source of the revenue is, I can help you guide and
Okay.
guide NEMRIC to figure out how to break them apart, if
Love
that
it.
makes sense.
Yeah,
And we can
it does.
do that as part of the 25 audit, so that it all seamlessly fits in, and then you're rolling forward into 26.
Okay.
Do a few journal entries to correct it for
Got
January,
it.
and
I
then we're
love
off and
Love
running.
it. Okay, cool. I love it.
Okay,
And then we'll have an unqualified opinion for 25.
correct. We'll make sure that's gonna happen anyway, even if we have to, like I said, do some manipulations and kind of do journal entries and get the information accordingly. We'll break it apart so that your funds will show that way, and then we'll just set it up in NEMRIC so it mirrors it, so.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ray.
Sounds like a good plan.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody else have a question, Katie? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for presenting to us.
No
That was
problem.
really helpful.
If you have any other questions, let me know, and meanwhile, I'll send you those uniform guidance policies.
Great.
Excellent. Dana,
Thanks,
did
Ray.
you have something you wanted to say?
Rick, could you send us an agreement letter for 2026 for our
No,
budget, please?
I thought, okay, yeah, I'll get that, I thought
That'd be
that already
great.
happened, but,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yep, no problem.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank
night.
you. Okay. Madison Valley Planning District. Josh, please join us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Harvey, I don't know if we met before. Josh Woods.
Josh.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
And,
Sorry you're standless.
yeah,
It's
It is.
official.
it is official. So, I think I know everyone, but just real quickly, Josh Woods with the Mad River Valley Planning District, the three-town planning entity representing and in support of the towns of Waitsfield, Warren, and Facein. We also have representation on our board in addition to a select board member, Kaylee, and planning commission member, Dan Raddock from Warren, so 2 from each town. We also have representation from Sugarbush Resort, as well as the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission. That makes up the board or the steering committee of the planning district. And we're funded in equal portions between the 3 towns and Sugarbush Resort. And we are generally a staff of 2 people. And Sam of Warren was our community planner for 2.5 years until the very end of November. So we're in a moment of transition, seeking to hire another community planner in the new year. As I get through this stuff, I can now focus back on all the applications we've received, which has been a good amount of response, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
It's not the first time we've hired for a community planner. This is by far the most amount of applications, which I think speaks to the larger economy and opportunity and interest in working in this world of planning in the valley. So that's really great. So I'm here to share about local options tax analysis that the Plain District has undertaken. This work was, Sam was the initial data analysis individual who started this work, and now I'm the one doing the delivery. Originally we talked about presenting this prior to now, which would have had Sam, but that's okay. Things happen the way they do, and it always seems to be done the right way. One of the many things that the Plain District does is data collection and analysis. We have an annual data report. We have one for this year that I sent to the printers last week, or approved the proof last week, so I anticipate having that soon and being able to share it, but we collect data on a variety of different things, from economy to housing, a bunch of different indicators. I think this year is 92 pages long, and it'll also be a digital version available online eventually. So there's more data to come, but in that world of doing data and data analysis, that's sort of where we come with the local options tax work. So thank you, Rebecca. So first and foremost, this is overview. what is a local options tax? It's a 1% tax added to state sales, meals, alcohol beverages, and or room taxes that municipalities have the opportunity to do. The Manchester was the first town in Vermont to adopt a local options tax back in 1999, approved by the legislature. The enabling legislation was in 1991. The local option tax is 1% on top of the base state sales state tax. Anything that is not taxed, so exemptions to underlying taxes, things like groceries, clothing, medical supplies, and there's a very long list of exemptions, are also exempt from local options tax. And local option tax also capture online sales that are delivered at the address of the community that has a local options tax. So there are currently 38 communities in the state of Vermont that have local options taxes. The map on the right, that's the local options tax finder from the Department of Tax's website, identifies all of those. And there's different types. The green identified in the map are the communities that essentially have a local options tax on all of the available items. Like I said, our sales tax, meals and alcoholic beverages, which actually if you have one, you have the other, you can't choose between them, and rooms taxes. And so that legend there shows a variety of different colors because there's different ones, but the majority have all four taxes. It's 3, 4, however you look at it.
It's the red one.
The red one,
Oh, we can't see just because of our video panel.
yeah, it is, I have it in front of me here.
Meals and alcohol only,
Yes.
excluding rooms.
And excluding sales. And so this interactive map, so this is on the Department of Tax's website. It's also the analysis on footnote number 5.
Okay.
On page 3 has the link to this map. There's a bunch of footnotes and a variety of different things in there. But a lot of, and when we say alcohol, we're specifically alcohol taxes on on-premise consumption. Off-premise consumption is subject to a sales tax. That's an interesting point when we're talking about alcohol. But a variety of communities have adopted LOTs and more every year for a variety of different reasons, and that's laid out in that document that's in front of you. But a lot of the focus of those communities are economic centers and destination resort communities overwhelmingly. It is more than those, but generally destination resort communities and economic centers in the state are where most of the local options taxes currently exist. We don't mind going to the next page, context and background. So I just want to discuss why are we discussing local options taxes now, and why is this conversation fundamentally different to previous discussions that have happened in the Valley in the past on this topic. Those that were around about 5 or so years ago remember that there was a pretty serious run at a local options tax in the Matter Valley that started around 2018. Matter Valley Plain District board members in connection and in collaboration with Matter Valley Chamber of Commerce board members formed a committee and spent 2 years developing a tri-town approach, essentially a local options tax approach across 3 different towns. The idea was that Warren, Waitsfield, and Facein would all work together on this and collect that money collectively and then identify where it goes collectively. However, in March of 2020, the Waitsfield voters rejected the charter change that was required at the time, which halted the initiative because the collaborative approach required all 3 towns to work together. So that's why it stopped. Here's what's different now, and the reason why we're talking about it now. There's been a variety of changes to Vermont law that have changed the dynamics. Act 144 in 2024 eliminated the charter change requirement in the legislative approval process in its entirety. So previously you had a charter change, you had that legislature approve. If you have an LOT in 2024, that's no longer, since 2024 legislative session, that's no longer the case, or enacted then. And then second, Act 57 in this year, in 2025, bumped up the municipal share from 70 to 75%. So you can have a 1% local options tax for which the state retains a portion of that, previously 30%, but that has been changed to 25%, increasing the amount on the local share that's retained. Yep.
So is it a tri-town effort again?
No.
Because it's still,
Yeah.
Waitsfield's still out?
Yeah. Yes, and I realize I didn't mention that. So this, let me circle back to that real quickly,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yep.
Just because I'm gonna lose my train of thought
Okay.
on the percentages, I'm saying, no, that's totally okay. But that percentage change increases the amount that municipalities can retain. The amount that's retained by the state is used in the pilot program, the payment in lieu of taxes program, so that's primarily where that money goes. And the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns worked through the legislature the last couple sessions to increase the local share. And so that's why that 75% that's retained took place. And we're seeing real momentum across Vermont. Like I said, 38 communities now have LOTs, including places like Waterbury, which passed theirs enacted in 2024, Montpelier, who had it in some, but then added sales tax in 2025. So there's changes happening. So the reason why this is of interest in the Mad River Valley is that the type of tourism-dependent economies seems to be the places where these taxes are working well. Visitors are using infrastructure, trails, emergency services, etc. Where currently the entire burden on the municipality municipal burden is on the property taxpayers, and the LOT provides a mechanism for visitors to help pay for some of those things. So we're taking a fresh look at this, and what was the effort in the past was a proposal for an LOT of a certain type. That's not what we're doing here. Literally, the planning district is doing the analysis to provide that information to the towns, and if the towns would like to move forward, then they're welcome to, and we're happy to help along the way, but it isn't a planning district initiative. There's no, part of the effort in the past was not only a way to collect, but also a mechanism in an administrative structure to utilize those funds. Here, there are no multi-town LOTs in the state, actually anywhere. And probably for good reason, because municipalities and select boards in particular have, part of the charge is to identify community priorities, raise funds, and then spend those funds on those priorities. That's entirely, there's no dictating of what the funding to be used for by the municipality. It's just this is a mechanism that exists for raising funds for municipal purposes. So that's what's being proposed. So that's how this is different. This conversation started with the planning district. We did a valley-wide paper on this in September, which is sort of what kicked this off. It looked broadly in the three towns and had some broad assumptions and revenue amounts. And from that, we heard from the different towns, hey, this is interesting, we'd like to learn more. So hence town-specific papers. Waitsfield is engaged in this, and they have a similar paper. Facein doesn't, but that has to do with the tax data is tricky, and I'm happy to talk about that. There's less data available for Facein than there are for the other towns, due to the number.
So Waitsfield is considering it?
Yes.
As well as I see.
Yeah, so I do anticipate that Waitsfield will consider it.
Because it would be strange for us to have 7% sales tax and
Yeah.
Waitsfield would have 6%.
And that was part of the thought process back in the day of having a multi-town approach. But again, at this point, it's have this conversation individually.
It's not terribly unusual though. I think
No.
South Burlington and Burlington differ, their sales tax. So, you know, communities that often seem continuous are not necessarily taxing the same.
But over time, Barry, Montpelier, Berlin now all have local option taxes. In the past, it was one, or it was different depending on where you were. Sometimes when you're on the Barry, Montpelier road, you don't know which of those three towns you're on. But you might know based on what you're paying.
Sales tax.
So that's one way to find out. So we're just following up with a town-specific analysis, and that's what we have in front of you here. So if you don't mind going to the next page. So we did, with this fresh approach, we analyzed 4 years of actual tax receipt data, meals, rooms, alcohol, and in-person retail sales from 2021 to 2024. to understand what the real potential impacts could be for our communities. So the Vermont Department of Taxes publishes a report on meals, rooms, alcohol, and in-person retail receipts. We pulled those 4 years, like I said, from 2021 to 2024, and it gave us a solid baseline of what's actually happening with taxable activities in each of our communities. So this stacked graph details the composition of in-person retail sales, meals, rooms, and alcohol receipts from 2021 to 2024. So what are the takeaways? Warren has experienced growth in sales in these categories over time. One thing worth noting, if you notice in 2022, so blue is retail sales, orange is meals, gray is alcohol, and yellow is rooms. There is no gray in 2022, and that's because there were no alcohol receipts in the state report in 2022 due to confidentiality reporting requirements. That's the reason why we don't have data for FACED. They will only release the data on sales if there are a certain number of businesses within that municipality in order to protect anonymity for those businesses. And so in 2022, my understanding is that Sugarbush might have changed the way in which they were doing their licenses and combined them, and it reduced Warren's number of businesses under that threshold. So yes, there were receipts. There were generally it's $20,000 to $30,000, or well, yeah, it's about. Anyway, I have the data of all the other years, and we can really look at that. But the main thing, and if we look at 2024 as a composition breakdown in the most recent year. Retail represents 68% of the total sales, meals is 13%, alcohol is 5%, and rooms is 14%. And we have this data for Waitsfield as well. It's not the same percentages as you can imagine, but that's the breakdown. And when communities look at having a local options tax, one of the considerations is what percentage is where, and so. One of the things I do want to make really clear here is that at this point, these projections are based on current sales tax data and does not account for online sales that would be subject to an LOT. I'm going to get to that, but the online sales is not included.
I guess I'm surprised that retail sales is so
big,
large a percentage.
especially in comparison to rooms or other categories.
But it's all ski tickets,
Yeah.
ski equipment. From one of our
So
4
significant
shops.
portion of that Sugarbush.
Yes, that I would assume.
Yeah.
And Alpine Options, Mountainside.
Yep.
True North.
Whatever you're counting lift tickets.
Yeah, no, but like, you go buy a pair of skis and they're $800, right?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
big ticket items.
You're paying 7%.
Yeah.
And I assume that rooms also covers STRs, is that right too?
That is my understanding.
Yeah, Perry?
Yeah, on the short-term rental, you mentioned 14%.
Yeah. 14% of the total in 2024.
Oh, okay. All right, because the tax on Airbnb went from 9%. I think the state of Vermont has a short-term rental tax that doesn't hit bed and breakfasts, but it's an additional 3% on top of the 9. So it's 9 and so 12.
Right, that's the new one.
So it's 12%.
It's 12 already. Did that happen this year?
Fall.
Last year?
Yeah, last year maybe. I forget when.
So anyone renting a short-term rental in the state of Vermont pays an extra 3% on top
So-
of what they would pay for tax at a hotel or a bed and breakfast?
Right, it's 9% plus the 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we added a lot task, it would be 13%.
So do you need to?
I just needed a pen because I want to write that down because I want to look into that. Thank you. Yeah, how does it interact with that additional 3%? Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So the next, if you notice the general move there, actually you might have to click it twice. There you go. So we went and modeled Warren's LOT revenue from 21 to 2024. Essentially, it's the same It's the same movement that you saw on the other one. So what is in this? What's in this is the revenue from 2021 to 2024, so each of those 3 years. And it is 75% of the 1%, because that's the amount that's retained locally. One of the things that we've learned since the September version to where we are now is that there's a deduction of a processing fee. There's a processing fee of essentially $6 per tax return, which also is reduced from your 75%. We analyzed 7 different Vermont municipalities with existing LOTs and found that processing fees reduced the municipal LOT share by an average of 11.7% for retail sales and 1.2% for meals, rooms, and alcohol taxes. So we reduced that from the total amount to estimate in 2024 if there was an LOT. Warren would retain $416,305.
Over 4 years.
Over 4 years. Sorry, just in 2024.
Yeah.
Just in 2024. Okay.
And this does not include online sales, online purchases.
But it could.
Yeah, which is my next slide. So most communities.
Let me go to the next one.
Yes, please. And I think it's going to start right there. I'm sorry, I did animation.
Okay.
I'll tell you when. So I went. Sam and I went and explored how different communities approached local options taxes. Like, how did they communicate with how do they understand them? How do they communicate to their communities about them? What were their processes for having a municipal vote? And there were, and what we just shared, essentially taking the state tax data, that's essentially where every community has ended. But I was left with 2 questions. One, what about online sales? What percentage is that? And then the second question is, what's the resident versus visitor impact? And honestly, I couldn't find anyone who's tried to wrestle with those questions. But we did. And we came up with something. There are assumptions baked into this, but I think, but these are questions I think worth asking. And I think that's part of the benefit of having the planning district being intellectually curious about these things and asking these questions and having zero political motivation on trying to sell something or not sell it. We're just literally trying to understand it. So the state tax reporting captures traditional brick and mortar retail activity, aka in-person retail activity. However, once a municipality implements an LOT, the state starts collecting tax on online purchases addressed to the town. And that revenue is not reflected in the Vermont Department of Tax's publicly available retail sales data by municipality, aka what I just shared doesn't show the online activity because the state isn't collecting it yet. And this is how they've been operating. Online retail represents a significant additional revenue stream that's often overlooked in projections that rely solely on state tax data. So the planning district compared state reported tax receipts and actual LOT collections from 7 different municipalities that have implemented an LOT on sales tax. And it showed that those municipalities receiving significantly higher state revenue. They're getting a lot more. And it's detailed in there, but I have a little bit here, so you can click the next 2. The municipalities that were analyzed were Waterbury, Wilmington, Stowe, Brandon, Brattleboro, Middlebury, and Woodstock. And these municipalities were chosen because they have an LOT across all 4 categories: retail sales, meals, rooms, and alcohol. But we identified the percentage above their in-person that is online sales. And as you notice, it varies. 15% in Middlebury to 50% in Brandon of their total sales being online sales. So there's a variety of ways to cut this, and we thought about, what are the communities that are most similar to Warren and so on and so forth, and honestly it was a rabbit hole. So we just averaged all of them, and the online sales were 32.5% higher than just their in-person sales. So you can click one more. So with this trend indicates that the potential annual LOT revenue in Warren, utilizing that percentage, of of in-person sales goes from 416,000 to just shy of $500,000 when online retail sales are included. Again, this is an assumption, though there are assumptions baked into this, but we believe that this is the range that.
So if somebody orders something on Amazon.
Yep.
And you put a lot tax in town.
Yep.
They pay an extra %.
Yep.
They already pay 6, they pay 7.
Yep.
And the state would
So
administer it.
correct, and that's one of the interesting things, and one of the questions that has been asked. And I actually had a conversation in a town where the treasurer was in Montpelier years ago, and Montpelier went from not having an LOT to having an LOT, and it was like, well, how was the administration? And they said it was the easiest thing possible. The state just wrote us a check, because state's the one collecting all of this, and then they and then they write the check for that amount. Again, there's a processing fee that is paid paid with the returns, but it is it's apparently very smooth from what we've learned. So we can go to the next one. So the second question is, what's the residential impact? And again, this is also based on assumptions, and it's an estimate. But we estimated that a portion of the LOT revenue would actually be paid by residents versus visitors. We used category-specific assumptions that were originally created for the 2018 effort, but we updated them with what we've learned since, and we broke them down with these different percentages. I'm very open to changing these, but like this is what we did for Valleywide, this is what we did for Waitsfield, we kept it the same in Warren. It's likely different, but again, this is a way to try to answer a question that otherwise isn't answered. So there are assumptions. So for retail sales, we estimated that residents would pay 29% of the total. I'll tell you why that number in particular in a second, but it comes from and assumes residents are doing 10% of the in-person retail purchases. Like there are taxable grocery items, that kind of thing, but again, these are only purchases in Warren. But we also assume residents account for about 70% of online retail purchases, since that's people buying stuff online and having it delivered to their homes. Again, these are assumptions that seem to make sense. The reason why the 29% is based on analysis of the other communities, and I can go into that detail if you'd like. For meals, we estimated 20% paid by residents. We know locals eat out, but the majority of resident revenue in our community comes from visitors. 15% for alcohol. Again, locals participate, but tourism drives bar and restaurant alcohol sales. Rooms at 1% paid by residents, because locals occasionally book accommodations for visiting family or other situations of that sort, but it's really a fraction of the total lodging activity. So we ran those numbers against the overall revenue projections that we mentioned earlier in the presentation, and learned that each household in Warren, if you click one more, would end up paying, if it was spread across every home, $178 a year, which works out to about $15 a month. And that breakdown would be 24% local instead. 20, oh, I think that's wrong. I think it's 24 and 76. Not 26 and 74, but bottom line is a third to 2/3. Sorry, a quarter to 3/4. So that is the sort of residential impact analysis that we went through to try to answer. But the key point is that this tax structure provides an avenue for visitors who are using services and infrastructure and such to help pay for those things, and so that entire burden be the responsibility of property taxpayers. So one more, which was property tax revenue generation. So this was, if, and you can do one more as well, if that amount of money was to be raised through the primary revenue tool that the town has, which is property taxes, essentially pretty much the only other one, what would that impact be in the community? And there's a few different things in the document, but here the annual tax impact on a $450,000 home would be $282. It would increase the tax rate by about 14%, or 6.3 cents per $100 of assessed value, which is how we got to that number there. So this is essentially, I think, helps illustrate how LOTs have been an attractive alternative for municipalities that are looking to raise funds and diversifying their revenue generation from entirely on the backs of property owners to those that are purchasing things in the town. So that's it. My last one just literally has my name on it. It says questions and discussion. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Also happy to, if you find errors or other things or some things that might be more warrant specific or assumptions, I'm happy to engage, work through the actual back end numbers, provide that to anyone, but to discuss more. I know this is a lot all in a 15-minute period of time here. But.
Oh, this is excellent work. Super helpful.
Jean?
Well, I have a couple of questions. The first question is, so for the $178 that's going to come out of my pocket, another tax, what benefit do I get in my property tax? Is it going to reduce my property tax by that amount or more?
So
Or am I
that,
just going to pay my property tax plus $178?
so the $178 is an average across the
Right.
board. And one interesting part about local option tax is, unlike most taxes, it's not a regressive tax. Because
I understand all the tax ramifications.
Okay.
I just want to know is, if I'm paying $178 more a year, what benefit do I get in regards to the taxes I pay the town?
Well, it depends on what we spend it on.
correct.
Right.
Offsetting the garage.
Right, if you offset the garage, then your taxes would go for the garage.
If that's what you choose to do, otherwise
Depends on what you do with it.
you keep spending money. So the question I have is, it goes back, I've been here only 21 years now, full-time 50, but the reason why we're doing all of this is because the towns are being very frugal about taxing its citizens, because our education taxes are beyond reasonable. In fact, it's going to go up another 12%. So we're being highly taxed for education. The towns are struggling because they can't tax their people anymore, which is laudable on their part. So the state's solution is, well, why don't we tax ourselves some more to compensate, because the towns can't spend money. To me, it's not logical and it's not reasonable to even think that way. I think a better solution would be is, for all the money we gold towns collect for the state, they should give us 0.25% back. So then we don't even have to raise the taxes. They just give us the money that they collect, give it back to us. But for me, I just can't believe we're saying, let's tax ourselves even more, and let's tax the people who come here as our guests, because they can't vote. They're stuck with whatever we do. So I really think this whole thing is wacky. The thing we need to do is lower the education tax, so then the towns, you know, I did a study years ago, and I said, well, if we just reduce our education tax by 2%, the town could take 1%, and we take 1%.
I think it's a
1%
bigger question though, Jean, because education taxes are going up largely because of insurance costs.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Very little
It's
to do with
still going
education.
up.
That said, it isn't really the topic of our conversation this evening. It is interesting, and we should continue this conversation at another time. But I want to be mindful of our agenda. Do you have any other specific questions for Josh?
No, I just think this is nuts. It's that simple.
Perry?
Well, I would agree. I'm never one to vote for more taxes, but the one benefit that I would see is that we have more control over the money, you know, that comes in. So to your point, if the board decides like, oh, we have all this fresh money coming in, let's go buy some new stuff that we wouldn't have bought otherwise, you know, then
Yeah, that's a problem.
right, that's a problem. But if it's offsetting the cost of things that we're going to buy anyway, you know, town garage is an example, you know,
Or maintenance, you know,
or
the other
maintenance or
thing.
whatever,
Right.
then it reduces the, you know, the town coming, you know, to our pockets, you know, and doing it that way. So, you know, the town has more control. It's nice that it's, you know, I guess they're only taking 25% commission, I guess now, you know.
It was 30.
The
And
less
one of the
clarity.
things to think about with respect to what both of you are saying
Yeah.
is the idea that tourism is contributing to this
Right.
tax allows, they don't have a say, Gene, but by inputting funds, they're also potentially improving infrastructure, right? And so it can be a beneficial relationship in that way.
I would say they do have a say. They could vote with their feet,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, which eventually.
you know, which maybe they do, maybe they don't. You know, it's 1%. You know, is anybody gonna
Are they
not go
paying
to
attention?
dinner for an extra $1 on the bill?
Right.
If it's
I like the
$100.
quote that Ludlow put in here, or that you put in from Ludlow. A lot provides a means for visitors to contribute to the infrastructure they use while visiting the town. I think if you spend it on things the town would otherwise have to spend tax money on, it can be a benefit.
Right.
So if I'm
And then-
I understand what you're saying, but if I'm a visitor and I'm a skier, right? The state plows 100, so that gets me here, right?
Well, it doesn't get
And
you
we
up the
plow
altitude.
three roads that gets people from 100 up to town. So what other infrastructure are they benefiting from? I don't even benefit from the town taxes that I pay today. Because I pay for my own road repairs, my own road plowing. I pay for all of the infrastructure. In fact, I think that out of the towns, and I'm going to bring that to next time, I think the town has 297 roads, and I think we only plow, and I'm going to sit down with Andrew to mark it off, but I think we only plow out of that 297, 40 roads, and that's a high estimate. So if you want to look at return on that investment, you know.
Well, they do a lot more than just plow, Gene. They maintain the roads, we pave the roads, the bridges, the culverts, the
But
ditches.
Not
I
this
only
road.
use to grade out my road and not most of the other roads in the town. So, yeah,
Well, I think we
we
go
get to
down the path
drive
of how
on.
we spend the money.
And then we've asked the town.
We should be respectful of the
to
agenda
pay
and
Full
Josh.
Hill. We've asked the town to do a number of things.
No, I understand, but that's
Yeah, we
not
don't
the
do
topic
that.
that we're talking about here.
So I'm saying is, we're not, as most town residents, are not gonna reap the benefit.
Well, you don't know that.
I
do
yeah,
know that. I know
think
that as
that's
much
up for
as you
discussion,
do.
and part of what we see for individual benefit from what the town spends is tied to how we use our town, right? Some people use the trail networks more than others, some people use the public spaces more than others, so there are different impacts on how the town spends money
Correct.
to you individually. Thank you for your comments, though, Jean, of course. And does anyone have any specific questions for Josh? Haley, do you have any?
Devin,
Yeah.
I was hoping that Josh could take this time to just maybe give a 2 to 3 minute overview of what the planning district has planned for the next year. Is that something that
Yeah.
you feel up to?
Sure.
Yeah, as long as we're mindful of continuing on, we're a
Yeah.
little bit behind schedule, but yes, I think that would be great, please.
Yeah. So in the upcoming year, I mean, we have continuation of a variety of things that we're working on. Our base data work, municipal support as needed. For particular projects, and the particular project that's taken the majority of my time in the last year, which will continue in probably over the year in less of a primary role, is serving as project coordinator for the Waitsfield Community Wastewater Project, so the implementation of wastewater in Waitsfield. So that's a large project that's looking to be at final design by the end of this spring, and moving towards construction. And as it gets more into implementation, I anticipate less planning district involvement. One of the particular projects that I anticipate being a primary in this new year is in regards to the seasonal bus service. So the MAD bus is the seasonal bus service. I believe it's the 18th is when it starts running. There are 4 different routes, and one of which is the Valley Floor route. But the other ones are mostly up on the mountain, the other 3. And Green Mountain Transit has been the provider for the last 20 years or so. Green Mountain Transit will no longer, starting in the summer, be the provider for the MAD bus. It is transitioning to Tri-Valley Transit. So Tri-Valley, so GMT, Green Mountain Transit is currently is in Montpelier and in Burlington, but has an urban service and rural service, and they are essentially will no longer, they are relieving themselves of the rural service, and Tri-Valley Transit's taking on the Mad River Valley portion of that. So I anticipate a fair amount of involvement in that transition to ensure that the bus, under a new management structure, can provide for the needs of our community. I think it's a distinct opportunity, and the time to act and be involved is honestly now, before that transition happens on July 1st. So I anticipate that to be one of the projects that's going to take a lot of focus for the upcoming year. To be honest, Kaylee, I have a longer list that are just not on the top of my head right now of things. We'll be finalizing the work plan as a steering committee at our upcoming meeting, which is a week from Thursday. So there's a handful of other items in there, but honestly, I'm just thankful to recall.
And in the near future, you're gonna be interviewing
Yes.
and working toward hiring
Yes.
a replacement for Sam.
Yeah.
Which will take a significant amount of time, I'm sure.
Exactly. I mean, in a two-person office, when you lose one person, you don't really lose just 50% of the work capacity. You lose more than that, because I am also HR and been working with insurance companies and data. Yes,
Yeah.
All the things.
all the things that are required.
Feel your pain, Josh.
And interviewing, and we've received 43 applications.
Wow.
That's great.
So it is a lot.
That's a
of
lot.
work. It's a lot to sit through.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I
Great,
look
thank
forward
you.
to, yeah, you're welcome. I look forward in the spring to have that individual, a month or so in, so late winter being up to speed and working on a variety of projects. I anticipate that person to be focusing primarily on the data collection analysis work, some mapping projects, and providing support to our towns. I mean, one of the things that I think that the Plain District is in a position to do is to think deeply about these questions about how do we raise funds and what are the opportunities and what are the tools that are out there. I totally hear Jean's point, and there are larger things that are outside of the touch and the realm of the planning district, but I do recognize that there is a tool at the disposal of communities, and a good number of communities have taken advantage of that tool.
So before we move on, as far as the LOT is concerned, you've given us this information in a presentation, and now it's sort of up to us as to whether or not we want to consider moving forward with implementing an LOT. Is that right?
Yeah.
And there's no follow-up from you, that's just.
I've got
here's the
nothing planned.
information?
Yep, here's the information. If there's an individual or individuals who would like to talk or come to another meeting to discuss, if you want to, have questions about some of the data and want to dig into that, if you wanted to change some of the assumptions, more than happy. If like I said, one of the things I also did was to do a review of communities that were considering an LOT and identify what their messaging and communication plans have been. I watched Waterbury's Selectboard meetings to see how they were talking about them, because I was really curious. Well, honestly, I was curious about these two outstanding questions, online sales and local versus non-local, and what are those percentages, and that's what spurred that. I reached out to Montleys and cities and towns. We reached out to a variety of different communities and said, how did you grapple with these questions?
How did the restaurants in Waterbury react to
I didn't hear that side of it, to be honest.
Okay.
I heard from the municipal side, how do they communicate it? And it was supported by the community and it moved forward. Because there's a lot more how do you spend the money and what is that being spent on?
Right.
And in Waterbury, they also have a downtown organization, so there's a village center designation here, and in Waitsfield and in Moortown, which is a statewide program. There are villages for smaller communities, and there are downtown designation for larger communities. Communities that have downtowns, one of the requirements to have a designated downtown is to have a downtown organization. And Waterbury has a downtown organization who they do events, they do streetscaping projects, they do murals, and so on and so forth. And I assume that I don't know for certain that some of their funding is focused on that. And so it is quite popular, specifically outside of Vermont, in counties that have LLTs, especially destination locations out west, to utilize that money to focus on bringing in more people as part of a communication and maybe working with a chamber or a downtown organization to have events and programming, because more people that come, the more money they spend, and then there are more revenue for the municipality. And so I think that dynamic is something that's at play in a variety of communities. Waterbury, I assume to be one of them.
One quick question before we move on, sorry, Jordan.
Do the voters decide on that?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yes.
It goes to a vote, right?
Yes.
Just a reminder,
Yeah.
okay. And then I also want us to remember that the Maverick Valley Planning District is a tool for us.
Yes.
And we have a say in what their priorities are and what they're focusing on, and we sort of make our say through our representatives, Dan and Kate.
Yep. Yes. Excellent. Yeah, and just so you know, so our work plan that we're working on right now, and budget anticipating to be approved at our December meeting again a week from Thursday. Our fiscal year is the weirdest fiscal year. It's March 1st to the end of February, and I think that's because they thought it
Town
made
meeting.
sense to be a town meeting,
Yeah.
except for the fact that you don't have a budget for up to 7 days in a year. But anyway, it's a little bit weird, but that's the timeline
That's
we're on.
vacation, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah, I like taking it there, but it's a little hard to take it during that time, the run up to town meeting day.
Okay,
As
I
well.
think we have to move on.
Yep.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, Josh.
You're welcome.
That was great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great meeting you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna hang around for a little bit
Yeah.
because
He's giving me a ride home.
Misha's ride.
Am I next?
Yes, please.
Just switch the sides here.
Rebecca, I sent you.
I got it.
email. Sorry, so late.
You ready for that? Me to share that now?
Sure. All right. Oh, let's see. I have for all of you. Another past
I
report.
have one.
Great.
Thank
Would
you.
you like one of
Sure.
those? Is there a place in town to leave?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good, thank you. And then since we'll be talking about the implementation, this is scoping study report.
I have that in every form. Thank you.
I'm sorry that I cannot push them into the computer. And then this is the scoping report for the town of Warren. This is your guys' copy. It's official, done.
Should we keep that here?
Sure.
All right, so I'm here to kind of talk to you about Medro Path and what we're doing, what we did last year for the town of Warren. I'll give you an update on how we're doing with implementing the Medro Path and talk about plans for next year. So I made a report for you that I will follow along. And I apologize for people in the audience, I did not make copies, but it's
They
there.
can see it there,
If you have
yep.
really good eyes, you can see that, and I do have one copy. Anybody want to
They
take
can
a
have my
copy?
copy if they want. No?
Okay, so it's right on the screen, in case you cannot see it. Great. Okay. Good to start?
Yep.
Thank you. So currently, we maintain 5 miles of trails in Warren. It's Warren Path, it's 1 mile of Vista Trail, half a mile interpretive loop, half a mile, and then Kingsbury Greenway and Snowmaking Pond Loop, and the Cloud Water Farm Path. That's Medway Path in Warren. In last year, we rehabilitated Warren Path and interpretive loop for flood resiliency. We upgraded loop trail signage. I'm putting down like 2.5 days of staff and volunteers. We replaced Cloud Water Farm Bridge. Took 4 days with staff and volunteers, $8,000 grant from the Northern Forest Center and $3,000 from our budget. We replaced the bridge and repaired flood damage at the pond loop. We contracted weekly path mowing, $2,000 was spent on mowing in Warren. And we conducted weekly maintenance and coordinated work of 4 path stewards in Warren. anytime, feel free to interrupt me, ask me questions if any of this is not clear. So this is just like what we do, and now I'm moving on to the active transportation corridor. And last year we completed the study, and we moved from study to implementation. We formed the 5-town implementation committee. On your behalf, we applied for Ellen Lane to Riverside Park bike ped grant, and we did not get the funding. We applied for the Vermont 100 crossing at Warren Village Main Street, and that would require engineering and demonstration project, and that was the leading reason why we didn't get that funding. Well, they didn't tell us that was a prerequisite. This was just a reason. They gave us 6 reasons. Why did we not get funding? Well, really, why we didn't get it? Because they received $50 million worth of funding requests, with $5 million of available funding, and then they had to find reasons. But they gave us leading reasons. They said the leading reason was because the crossing of 100 has not been studied or shown as a demonstrated need, and that's what they focused on. So we're like, okay, we're gonna do that. So we applied for funding with CVRPC, engaged the local motion and VHB, and hopefully this is going to happen. I don't see any reason why this isn't gonna happen over the course of this year, which would allow us to reapply for this grant again
Can you tell us
next
a
year.
little more? So,
Sure.
you engage VHB?
Yeah, because you're already working with VHB
Yeah.
on your main street, so it's
Right,
naturally for them to extend and design that. So before, V-Trans will allow us to set up a demonstration project, which would be made of a little fake sidewalk on top of like a tarp, right? And painted crossing across the road with water paint and beacons, flashing beacons, whatever way, it has to be engineered. So they have to approve, we have to engineer it for real and then fake the setup of this, and then invite all the children, all adults that fake the massive crossings of the road back and forth, film it to show that there's a need of this. And then we're gonna document it, and then we can reapply for the grant and say we did everything you guys said, give us the grant. That's the idea. Does that answer your
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay.
And we're hoping that it sort of flows with the work that
The VHB work.
you all are doing, you know, you guys just had a site walk and.
Yeah.
She mentioned it, so.
Okay. We applied for Kingsbury Greenway T-Mobile grant to improve Kingsbury Greenway to adaptive standard. We didn't get the grant. We applied for 2 for the trails grant for improving Cloudwater Farm Path. We didn't get the grant. All this is like what we're facing into a new reality. All those people are telling us your application is just as good as anyone else's, and we're receiving 500 applications for 25 funding slots. So we're living in the new funding reality, and we need to get really good at this, and we need to also continuously reapply. So it's like next week we're reapplying for the T-Mobile grant, and eventually they'll get tired of it. Eventually, so
I mean, it took how many times of applying for the Sugarbush Path?
3 times.
3.
Right.
And sorry to jump in, but the the town of Waitsfield just received $1 million grant as of yesterday from the Northern Border Regional Commission. That was 4 pre-applications and 3 full applications before it got funded.
Yeah.
So that is the reality.
Right, keep applying.
Don't stop.
So this is good, because really, what am I talking about? I'm talking this whole, I could name this presentation as how you beat your head against the wall, but you put a soft hat on so it doesn't hurt too much. Right? So you can keep doing it for a long time. This year we negotiated a trail easement modification with Warren Lodge, and so the Meadow Path at Warren Lodge will no longer go up the stairs, but it will have a bypass so that it could be negotiated by bicycle, by eventually when it's improved by wheelchair, etc., etc. So it's an improvement for accessibility. We developed plans for rehabilitation of the Clay Brook Bridge, which is about to fall. We only need 1 more flood for that to go, so we have plans, and we have a permit from the state, the stream alteration permit. We also, and we have done the test drilling. We're now hoping that the period when we can start work starts July 1st, It's when you could work within a stream bed. We're hoping that's gonna still be there July 1st.
Where is this
That's
bridge?
right at Med River Lodge.
Oh, okay,
Right across from
Right.
Bush Access
Okay.
Road. Yeah.
yes, thank you.
We're working together with the Friends of the Med River on the stream restoration, stream bank stabilization plan that's not riprap, but using natural materials and tree stumps and planting willows so we can stabilize the bank upstream from the bridge without undue environmental impact. It's going to be kind of a trial experiment. Okay, so that's, in addition to that, we continue to facilitate Sugar Bush Access Path implementation. The NEPA is completed. I don't know if Rebecca has given you a report lately, but we are moving along. We're in a good place. We're entering right away negotiations, and that'll be followed by final design. So it's going right along how it should be going, which is awful slow. but it's going. We have a meeting on 12/15. And finally, we brought over 300 participants and 400 spectators about the Med River Triathlon weekend last spring. Oh, and I forgot one thing. We spent $2,000 on dog poop bags, but that's divided between the
jeez.
3 towns.
Wow.
Wow.
But they're not using them.
They are. There's considerably every year. There are less, because we're doing weekly maintenance. There are less and less dog poop, and there are actually less dog poop bags left on the trail.
Okay.
And there's room for improvement, but I think we're making.
And it is so much, like, we were just experiencing dog poop every
Yeah.
6 feet on city sidewalks. Like, it is actually a lot better than it could
Okay.
be.
Is there any questions about last year before I go into next year? Okay, so in the coming year, we will lead the 5-town path implementation committee. So this is now a new group that's been formed, that's working across 7 working groups. We will conduct a demonstration project of 100 crossing in Warren Village. We'll reapply for bike and ped grant for the first mile of the active transportation corridor. We will convene a meeting of stakeholders in Montpelier with the help of our legislators aimed at developing cooperation with VTrans for the entire corridor, because it's very clear to us that the way it works, or rather the way it doesn't work, is one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. It's not efficient. We really need to get everybody together, representatives from all valley towns, state representatives, Agency of Transportation, Transportation Committee, and hopefully the governor, all in the same room, and talk about that anything that's done along this corridor from here forward need to be done with the active transportation corridor in mind. Okay. We're going to reapply for T-Mobile 2 for the trail grants. We will conduct a community fundraising. So this is the first decision this committee, implementation committee made. They said we need to make progress. So we can't just wait for the grants. Let's go ahead and improve Kingsbury Greenway in 2026 through community fundraising. All we need is $50,000 to do that, and we can show what the adaptive, improved path would look like. And we will have a place right here, right now, where children can learn how to ride their bikes. Not 10 years from now, but a sizable chunk of the trail. So that's.
What's the length of that section, Misha, to Kingsbury Greenway?
Well, I said 2.5 miles, but that includes the loop. So without a loop, it's really a mile of a trail.
Yeah.
And then, once you get underneath the Kingsbury Bridge, the idea that it will loop back to the road, the idea that we could, within a reasonable amount of time, do another demonstration project on Kingsbury Bridge with bollard separation of bike traffic and the road traffic, so that people can come underneath the bridge, loop back, cross the road, and hop right onto the Cloudwater Farm, make a cutoff right on the other side of the bridge.
It's a big disconnect right now,
It's
not being
right.
able to cross the
And
bridge.
it's such a small connection. As soon as
Yeah.
you cross the bridge, you can go to the path.
Right.
And, okay.
I imagine, I missed the implementation meeting, Misha, but the Kingsbury Greenway is chosen for the adaptive standard because that'll be relatively easy to upgrade. Flat,
It's
accessible.
exactly relatively easy to upgrade because we have notification of the easement. It will be accessible all the way through, and it corresponds with the first mile that we're really trying to implement. It's just going right along our priorities, going from Warren to Waitsville. We are going to conduct a comprehensive socioeconomic study and quantify the benefits of the active transportation corridor, because that's the numbers that all the select boards are asking us, that we don't really have that statistics. We will continue to facilitate Sugarbush access path to final design and construction. That will be happening in 27, the construction. And then we are going to complete Attitude of Gratitude recreational project for the entire valley. I don't have time to talk about it right now, but that will be very important project for helping our recreational ethics, for inviting people to visit, and for many reasons. There may be another time you invite me for this, but I just want to be mindful of your time. We will develop new signage for Meadow Path from Warren to Waitsfield. It's time to mark the path, even if we don't have it all, but we have enough of it to mark it all the way from here to there. So then, of course, in addition to this work, we also manage overall 15 miles of valley floor trails, which are heavily used by people who, for many of whom, those are the only trails they could use. You know, this is the elderly, and people with young children, people with special needs. We're developing trail kiosks for partners, for 14 partners in the valley. We are operating outdoor adventure programming for children and adults, coordinating Metro Triathlon, managing canoe and e-cargo bike lending library, and leading this Attitude of Gratitude project. Current staff capacity is myself, an executive director. We have a 6 hours per week bookkeeper and 8 hours per week communication specialist. We will welcome our first year-round AmeriCorps service member starting on January 20, and their focus is going to be on past stewardship and providing outdoor programming to local residents.
Cool.
And I will end this with a proposal that I have, and I'm not asking you for any decision making, I'm asking you to consider this. So, this is more than I could do. It was, we had incredible help from planning district during the scoping study, and we're grateful for Josh and Sam, and that pretty much Sam worked side by side with me the whole time. And the planning district, reasonably so, being a planning entity and not an implementation entity, saying we've done the planning, now you guys need to implement, so we don't have that. And I'm drowning in this. There's not a chance I could work across 5 municipalities doing this and anything else. This is a major infrastructure project. If we want to see it, if we don't want for this report to collect the dust and kind of go into obscurity, we need to work really hard on this day in and day out. I need help. So I'm proposing a half-time position of project implementation coordinator. I'm proposing that that position will be funded at the moment half-time in thirds, because we're not ready to implement anything in Moortown and Middlesex. We need to do more study. We're not there yet, but we're ready in both Warren and Waitsfield. So I propose that we fund this position one-third Warren, one-third Waitsfield, and one-third our fundraising by the Meadow Path. I have included a little preliminary budget for this, and they are going to support me in every aspect of the implementation. They're going to be primary person to identify, prepare, administer all the private, state, and federal grants, and they'll support the 7 working groups, because we now have a funding, landowner, municipal, state, community engagement, economic study, and engineering work groups. That's a lot of coordination. So that's what I hope that if I have any time left with you, that you will ask me questions and I could just gather whether you think it's a good idea, whether it will serve town and Warren and help us to move forward, and also any other questions that you may have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Misha.
Thanks for coming.
Does anybody have any questions about the presentation or about the potential for a project coordinator. I've been working closely on this project with Nisha, the study, and remain on the implementation committee. I'll say personally, I think this is an incredible opportunity. And I think that the active transportation corridor would provide so much benefit, not only to residents, but to tourists as well. And that the, the economic gain would be both financial, and from a well-being perspective. So I think it's an amazing project. I'd like to see it continue to move forward. And I like the idea of supporting it in conjunction with Waitsfield, Moortown, all of the other towns.
Sorry, so 7 working groups are for the active
Yeah.
transportation.
So we have now a 5-town committee that's made of, that has state representatives, select board representatives from, all the way from Middlesex to Warren.
And the 7
And
working
that group
groups
is,
are for that.
that group is divided into 7 work groups.
Yeah.
So that we could actually, we're not just meeting, but in between meetings, everybody has a deliverable task, so we could move forward. Because in this funding environment that we are in right now, we have to be very creative, and we can absolutely make progress, and we have opportunities that we maybe not had before. We're talking about asking Agency of Transportation to say, look, Town of Warren allocated $400,000 for the first mile. That is enough to build a path if you do away with your rules. Can you do away with your rules? Don't you want us to make progress? How long are we gonna wait for new funding to come in? It's gonna take 3 years and another 3 years, right?
Well, and then there's also this interesting comparison with like the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, where it ended up becoming a state-run initiative, right? And funding came from a very different avenue. So,
Now, the Sugarbush Access Road path is separate from,
It's
or is it part of it?
totally separate, and it had been funded, which
Yeah.
means that when we're gonna have a final design, and the final design price tag is gonna be twice of what we have. We
Yeah.
will, as soon as we have right-of-ways, as soon as right-of-ways are done, and they give us a new price tag, and we will apply for the first available round of grants, they will give that grant, because they don't want to stop projects that are fully funded and designed.
yeah.
That those take priority, and they're very clear about that. But we will have to apply, and we have to wait until right-of-ways are completed.
Gotcha.
on the, sorry, Joel, you go.
Gene had his hand up.
I was looking at this, phase 1 through 2, and it shows 6 miles for $4,278,000. So in round numbers, that's like $713 or $700,000 a mile. So I looked at Stowe. I did this shit last year because I found the town was giving away $400,000. Stowe's trail was 5.9 miles, and it only cost them $128,000 a mile. Lamoille County, which is 93 miles, it only cost them $333,000 a mile. So we're talking 6 miles, it's gonna cost $4 million. $4 million could pave Fuller Hill and Roxbury Mountain Road, so all those people driving back and forth and would have access. Do you have any trail counts on how many people use this?
So we will, that's part of what we're gonna do next year, is we're gonna do a full social and economic study of what's happening now. We have approximations, but we don't have a very, very good data. We have data from other communities. For example, Stowe had their trail counters on every trail last year installed full-time, and they got real-time data, and they counted 100,000 trail users. But I don't want to speculate.
And
so
Stowe,
in the year,
wait,
let me finish. I didn't interrupt you, thank you. So we will, in a year, we will have that data. As far as the numbers go, the Lamoille Valley Trail is built on the state right of way, on top of the railroad
The
right of
railroad,
way.
yes.
And on top of the railroad bed that was in place with all the bridges in place. So we really cannot be comparing the cost of building on top of the existing railroad bed towards developing a new trail. And the final thing is that I so agree with you that the cost of $2.5 million a mile of building in the state right away is outrageous. And that's what we're addressing with the state. I'm so with you. It's an outrageous cost. It shouldn't cost near that much. And I think everybody are on the same page, including people at Agency of Transportation. So can we change any of that? I don't know. We're going to try. But what we can do, and what committee is doing, is as much as possible, we should try to avoid that right of way, because the moment a private landowner gives us permission to build on their land, like the town of Warren says, go ahead and use the Kingsbury Greenway. The cost of improving a mile of Kingsbury Greenway will be $50,000 so that's, I completely agree with you, and we will work on using our money in the best way possible, having learned those lessons.
In the Stowe Pass, the town of Stowe only paid $20,000, and the rest of that $5 million was donated. And here we are, want to spend $4 million, and we don't know anything about the traffic. We're building something that we think people will use.
Well, that's not necessarily true, and I'm not sure how much of your time we can take.
Well,
Maybe-
we're behind schedule,
Okay.
and we need
Well,
to
we
keep
could
going,
do it in
but
another meeting.
we did just have a year-long scoping study that proved there's very significant interest in this trail and will be high rates of usage.
How about, what if I get your contact information?
Sure.
And we meet
I'd be glad
outside
to
of
talk
this
with you.
meeting and talk more about it? That would be the best, maybe, of everyone's time.
Okay.
Thank you, though, for your concerns. I wonder if there's anything else. from
Yeah.
you guys.
Do you guys have any questions for Misha?
No, thank you.
No,
Misha.
Kaylee?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Misha.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and I don't know how it would work for you to talk about this, to give me an indication. I have not gone to Waitsfield yet. It's
Okay.
always goes to this first.
Yeah.
I come to you in the same way the path is going.
Well, it's something that we're gonna need to consider, so
Yeah.
we'll put it on an agenda
Yeah.
for budget season, and please keep us up to date with Waitsfield's considerations and what you do or don't know. And typically, what we've done previously, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, is we'll say something like, yes, we're willing to fund the $16,000 if Waitsfield agrees as well. And so they often get tied together.
Okay, well, it makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you
Well,
so
Thank you
much.
so much for giving me your time.
Thanks, Misha.
Would anybody like a sticker for the active transportation corridor? I'll leave some here.
Thank you, thank you.
Another FYI.
Okay.
I think I put mine on my water bottle. But I forgot my water.
Thanks, Misha.
Thank you, Misha.
Absolutely. Put it on my tractor.
I wonder if tractors are loud.
Are they allowed on the path?
They're on the road.
You sometimes they
Converting it to electric.
Okay, we are a little behind schedule. Sorry, Janet. Thank you.
Sure.
We are ready. And if you don't know anyone on the board, Harvey, Janet, Joel, Janet, Kaylee's there, who I think you know.
Hi, Janet.
Hello. I can't see everybody, but all good.
When they talk, you'll see them.
Yeah, the owl
Yes.
everywhere. So I want to say thank you to Misha. Misha, I think it's a great idea. I would definitely utilize it, as well as the employment opportunity, because there's a lack of employment opportunities, period. And I know people, including myself, who would be interested in part-time employment. So I just want to big that up. Okay, so as far as what I am here for, you all have received a proposal for myself and possibly other artists to be able to utilize the second floor of Warren Town Hall. And I would just start off with questions, because you have the proposal and we can just get right into it since it's 8:05 right now.
just gonna give everybody a minute to review.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that we currently charge people to use that space, so it's really a bigger question of what is that space really going to be going forward, and do we want to change from the direction we are now? We're also in the midst of reconsidering our space in general, so I think there's some bigger questions wrapped around that space.
I think
Sorry,
the
can you say your
other,
name again? Who was just speaking?
Harvey.
Harvey, yes, okay.
Kaylee, did you have something to say?
I think the other question I would have is, I really like the idea of so stepping back, I love the proposal. I thought it was a really great idea to think about having an artist in residence program in the town of Warren. And I think, I'm not sure that the second floor of the libraries or the town hall is really the place. And I'm only saying that because I know that it's super busy. It would require people to take their work with them when they leave and use it. So those are the things that I'm working out in my head, in addition to the fact that Harvey kind of mentioned we're trying to maybe take a step back and re-envision the usage of that space. So not sure how others on the board are feeling at this point in time.
Joel, what are your thoughts?
I love the idea of the space being used. Again, I just don't know what our long-term policy has been for it. So, like, the idea that it sort of maintains its flexibility seems like it's sort of to its advantage.
Mhm.
Is that it always is available, can be rented sort of quickly, and for multiple different situations, and is sort of flexible in that way. And so I'm all in favor of the space being used, as long as the schedules are sort of not overlapping, and other people that have been using it for a long time don't, that their schedules are respected as well. Because there are some sort of repeat things that happen up there.
There are, for sure. And they're not all for pay, but there are services sort of rendered in exchange for some of that space and time.
So I don't really know that policy because
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody.
I'm sorry, who was that was talking?
That's-
My name's Joel.
Joel?
Yes.
Joel
Okay.
Taplin, Harvey Blake.
Oh, cool. All right, I'm just taking names.
Yeah. So I think what Joel just said is an interesting point and a good question, that the flexibility and usability of the space for community members, sort of on a short notice, is important and has been historically. Can you just speak to that a little bit, Janet? I think your proposal sort of includes using the space during library hours and being able to take your materials with you. What about like someone else needing to use the space during those times with you? Is that, what would that look like? Would that work? Would it not work? Can you sort of talk us through that?
Well, I guess it would depend on what they are doing and how much space they need. And I am willing to work around in various ways just so I can get my work done. This is why the flexibility of packing in, packing out, if someone wants to rent the space, then I don't go in. Like you're saying right now, if someone wants to share the space, that is definitely possible, because the nature of the work that I'm producing doesn't require me to bring in any type of toxic paints or take up space in a way in which someone wouldn't be able to maneuver around. However, if it's like one of the exercise classes going on, obviously I wouldn't be able to share space with them. But if it's a group that wants to, have some type of meeting or a reading group, I don't know what else is going on up there, because the only thing that I know of is the exercise and birthday parties that happen up there. I would be able to work with them. I am extremely flexible within this entire proposal because of the nature of the space. I know that it is being used to create revenue for the town, and I know that that is of utmost importance. However, in understanding what a couple people had already said is the re-examining of the space, I think this is the perfect opportunity to allow for this to sort of be a test of, okay, well, what if we did utilize this for artists or people who live in the town that need it, as y'all were saying, immediately for a certain period of time, or hey, I need to come in and I need to get something done, I need to make this work, and one day I need to get this done. I think this would be a good opportunity to examine, this space that you all are in right now, which is what are we doing with this space? How are we going to maximize the space? A residency is definitely a great idea that has to be built out. So that's something that could be in the conversations when talking about, well, what are we going to do for this space in the future? As of right now, though, I don't know when you all are having those talks. As of right now, for me, it's just a matter of, hey, whenever the space is available, and really it's looking like Saturdays would be the day for me, I would be able to go in there and utilize the space. And if someone has to rent that space, it's just a matter of knowing, okay, well, someone's coming in and they're renting. And to the point of sharing, when it is being rented, and let's say I already am scheduled to be in because nothing was on the books and someone came in like that day before, Saturday, for example, then maybe having a conversation with them. Would you be able to share the space with someone who's already in there doing A, B, and C? And I can have a conversation with them as well if needed.
Yeah, it's 1 second, Perry. I just want to add to that. I think that it's not unusual for us to be like, we have to check a schedule to see if we can book the space. It could be a matter of, the space is regularly used on these days and we need 2 weeks notice in order for that to change, right? So that, Janet, you're not like on a Friday, sorry, you can't come tomorrow. Before I forget, I know I should know this, but can you remind us of the library's hours?
The library, I believe, is open from 10 to 6 p.m. I can just look it up real quick.
Some days it's 10 to 2.
That
Tuesday is 10 to 2?
They're not open.
Thursday.
Let me see.
Tuesdays
So
10
Monday,
to 2.
Monday 10 to 6, Tuesday 9 to 2, Wednesday 10 to 6, Friday 10 to 6, and Saturday 9 to 2.
Okay.
So not open on Thursdays, and not Sundays.
Right, okay. I was just wanting to get a better understanding of what we were talking about for hours.
And I looked today, Tuesday nights there's exercise class from 5 to 7. Wednesdays there's exercise class from 10 to 12:30. Thursdays the building's closed, and then Friday there's another exercise class at 5 p.m. So those are the regular reoccurring
Right, right. So
events that happen.
if we were to consider this, Janet, we would need to be mindful of those times that are already booked regularly.
And those are not times that I would want to be there.
Well, there was one Friday during the day, right? Or two. There are two of them that are during the day.
Yeah, I can't, that's why I was saying Saturdays is really like my only day. Fridays, I have meetings. And so, in general, during the week, it's going to be more challenging for me to be there to get work done, even though if there is a possibility, I would say, hey, you know what, actually, I have this day where I don't have any meetings, or I don't have to teach, or I don't have to do A, B, and C, and I would love to come in and use that time. But generally, Saturdays, that would be the space for me. Mm-hmm. And then talking about days when it's closed, just to cover that, I wasn't interested in days that the library is closed, because I really didn't want to have to be responsible for, the building, coming in and out, locking up and things of that nature. So it is definitely during operating hours, in particular on Saturdays and any other weekdays, where I can put that into my schedule and it works.
I see two things happening here.
Yeah.
There's two conversations. There's one that's a scheduling thing, which is pretty easy to handle. And then the thing that I think we're not talking about is the space used free of charge.
Okay.
So there's two things.
Yeah.
Right? We charge for, and we have sort of a mix match policy across the board about when we charge for things. Right. Like applications don't get charged, we waive the fee, like there's all sorts of stuff that happens.
This is true.
And so that seems to be, to me, where we want to like zero in and like hammer out all the details, because like using the space is awesome. If it's not being used, absolutely, let's use it.
Right.
But let's figure out a policy of how we're gonna use all the spaces, and that seems to be, that seems to be.
You can't charge one group of people and not charge another group
Mm-hmm.
of people, right? Space should be used, that's great, and we think we should raise money to lower taxes, that's also great, but you can't say, these people don't have to pay and these people do. We gotta figure out a way to reconcile that.
I think that's the issue at hand.
Yeah, I agree.
Harry, did you have a comment?
Just a question, I guess, because they're talking about upstairs. What goes on in the basement other than elections?
A lot.
And
A lot. The library
More?
uses the basement
Yeah.
far more for
Far more,
their
yeah.
after-school programming. There's a little bit of after-school programming that sometimes happens upstairs too, but I imagine that's not really an issue for you, Janet. It's like a group of 6 kids doing a craft kind of thing, which would work well.
Yeah.
So how do we, I guess I want to have the conversation about payment. I think that there are payments in kind, there are experiences that are available as well, right? Like somebody cleans bathrooms in exchange for space. There are maybe other ways to look at that. And I also, one thing that keeps running through my mind and something I've experienced in government work is sometimes I feel like we walk away from opportunities because we feel like we need to have this overarching understanding and policy for something. And I think that it's important to try and be nimble while being fair. And so if there's a way that we can do a thing for a while we're figuring out our long-term goal, I don't see the harm in that. That's my personal opinion as far as being able to be flexible in this regard.
I agree with that. I feel like it's not, I think this proposal came at a time when we were already thinking about like what is our approach, and what is the overarching approach, but I wouldn't want to like conflate the two into one thing. I would want to kind of have that conversation separately and then see, like maybe we can work something out with Janet to see how it goes, maybe like on a trial basis to see if it works for her in the space, and if it works for others. Like again, space gets used, that's awesome. We just need to figure out the payment structure and the approach, and I think that's easier than the other overarching vision piece.
Right.
We can work on over time, not in budget season.
How do you guys feel about that flexible approach?
Well, again, I think you have to address the issue, big issue, small issue. You have to address the issue of some people come and say, I want to use that space, and they have to pay, and other people say, I want to go use that space, and they don't. I mean, that has to be reconciled in my mind before you move forward with this.
Okay. That does happen already as well. Just saying.
I know, but that's why
Which is another reason it needs to be reconciled.
So what does that sound like to you guys?
well, what is the, I don't even know what the payment structure
Well,
is.
nobody really knows.
Well,
it's like
exactly.
$50 a usage, but what is a usage? Like
An event.
it's
But we don't charge for
Is-
funerals.
Wait,
is
Um,
that 6
what did you say it
hours? It's $50 to use the space, but is that for 6 hours or for 2 hours or like
Right.
it's very ambiguous
Yeah.
currently.
Well, so and one of the things in my town administrator update is that I am pretty close to presenting a new rental agreement to you all for the town hall. I just need, you know, because things keep coming up over in that building. I've talked to Marie, you know, about several incidents. We had an incident this weekend where, you know, there was an event that happened over there. The oven got left on. Thank God Marie had an event in the evening and realized it. So that could have been really bad potentially. And then there was another event where somebody accidentally hit the, you know, the emergency button in the elevator and the whole fire department had to come out.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it's, I'm not saying that that is something that would happen to Janet, you know, but, you know, it costs money for the fire department to come out to an emergency. And yes, it was an accident and they told the dispatcher that, but the fire department still has to come and put their own eyes on it to make sure that it truly is an accident.
Right, there are risks and
Yeah,
costs associated.
you know, and
with
like,
it.
you know, who holds the liability, you know, when somebody is there using the space and gets hurt. And, you know, it's just a domino effect of all the things, you know, that's why we ask for the deposit. You know, we currently don't ask for a deposit when there's a funeral, but moving forward, I think we need to after some of the incidents that happened over the weekend.
Mhm.
So those are all part of, you know, this new rental agreement.
Mhm.
You know, and it's a tough place to be. You don't, you know, we're all, you know, friendly in this community, and, you know, Dana and I hate being the bad guys, but sometimes we have to protect these buildings because you never know what might happen. So that's the tough part.
Right.
And to go on to Rebecca's saying, most of the meetings that we have there, the gardeners, mountain gardeners pay, the fiber, you know, the rug hooking people pay.
Yep.
Everyone does pay to use that space, and classes, the gallery and the art classes, there's those are all paid. And like you said, there are some people that substitute for a service, but as Rebecca is saying with the new agreement, that person will be most likely giving us a major deposit for the wear and tear on the building. So we're, you know, and basically the free events are the meetings that go on there that are town meetings, and the arthritis workshops, or, you know, the workouts on that Wednesday morning are the free ones. So.
And maybe library programming.
In the library programs.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which are town programs.
So, just
Exactly.
to speak, and speaking to this new model that's coming to fruition and thinking about the space, when there are people who live in an area who have different economic levels that they're bringing into their home, there are programs where certain people do not have to pay for certain services because of their income level. The only reason why I am asking to use the space free of charge is because I know my budget and income level at this point. I am not established in this area in the same way. As an artist, my career is already precarious. This is why there's so many funding opportunities. This is why the nature of being an artist, you have to always write grants. So even if payment had to come into play, I would probably be writing a grant that would take up a lot of time to get money to then pay for this space where I'm packing in and out and I'm not leaving my supplies. And this is why when I said packing in and out, if I were to pay, then I would want a space where I could actually leave my items there to be able to utilize the space with ease and not have to continuously bring things back and forth. But as far as my community input in terms of a structure of how the payment can be organized in a way that accommodates all citizens who live in Warren, I think that has to be taken into account. It's just like any other programming that is dealing with social responsibility, philanthropy, giving back to the community. There are certain aspects of structures where, okay, we can accommodate this amount of people who have this certain level of income, or at least stating that they do, and, you know, it's a trust thing, or, you know, obviously programs people want to see, they want to have the proof, and that happens often. But I think that has to be taken into account when you all make a decision on how the space is going to be utilized and how it can be inclusive of everybody. even if it is what some people may see as minimal, which is $50. That is a lot to a lot of people.
Thank you, Janet. Kaylee just asked a question to the group about this being something that potentially the Warren Arts Committee could sponsor, which would be, sort of like a grant through the Warren Arts Committee to pay for the use of the space. Dana, is that something that you can speak to?
I could possibly. That's not what we bring performances, not pre-performances. I know that the Vermont Arts Council gives out many grants for administrative and design work. I know that because my husband got something to write a play. So I do understand, Janet, what you're saying on that. I'd have to relook at the mission statement for the Warren Arts, but we do fund performances for the community, like the Art Bus, or the VSO coming in, or sponsoring. We did sponsor an artist in the Harwood play this year, but our budget definitely isn't for for a residency at this point. We would need more funding and through the town, and if that's something you guys are considering from through how you see that space being used, that would be a budget item also through the grants, or maybe honestly maybe through the Warren the Mad River Rec District, something like that is somewhere where you could reach out to get some money for something like that. That might be a better solution, but I can ask the rest of the committee on this one also. I'm not the decision maker.
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful, Dana. I'm also curious, getting to Janet's point about like a progressive rental fee or a structure.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the idea, especially when we're thinking about like how many people are renting the space, right? If it's a big party versus a small party, if it's just an individual.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a way to look at it as well. So just naming it here, that when we look at what Rebecca's put together as like the updated rental agreement, I think we should think about trying to think that through.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like we're gonna reach a decision at this moment. I'm curious with the board how you guys feel like we might reach a decision and what that would look like and how we'll have that conversation. And it seems like it would need to happen at another time.
I'm curious about Rebecca's proposal first as like something to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I like what Kaylee's talking about volume.
Mm-hmm.
And should be taken into consideration as well, so that like, and then I guess we should, I don't know what the impact of like, I guess I just want to be consistent. It just feels like there should be some kind of consistency to it, where we have an idea of what we're going to do, where we apply a structure that is just uniform. And whether it's like $10 for a single use person, for one person to use it, like that. If we know that that's that, then we can just apply it that way. Or if it's $50 for 50 people, I don't know how it works, but like this seems. I think we should take the opportunity at this moment, since it's not been dealt with for 200 years, since the building was dealt with. Like we should probably take the opportunity to just deal with it right now, and then proceed forward, and then hopefully it will all work out.
Okay, so that sounds to me like an agenda item to be included when Rebecca comes with her presentation on the usage for the space. Janet, I'm sorry that means you don't have a decision tonight. Do you have any questions for us at the moment?
My only question is, because I just want to get a definitive, in the interim, while you all are figuring out this new structure, because right now it's willy-nilly, would it be possible to be able to utilize the space on Saturdays to do work? On Saturdays when there is no one there?
Again, I think you can't say one person has to pay and another one doesn't. I mean, it's just not fair.
Yeah, no, that's true. But as you all are saying, and what I'm listening to is that there is no structure. It's been
No, that's not what we're saying. There is
and all
structure.
over,
There's a lot of
right?
people that pay.
Yeah.
There is structure. There are
Well,
exceptions
structure
to
for
the
payment,
structure.
right?
Yes, there are people that
Okay.
pay. And so we can't have people
Right.
that pay and then say, well, we decided now we're gonna have people that don't pay. Do we give the people
And
money
you
back
also
to the
said that
people
there's
that
people
pay?
who do not pay, and that's what I'm pointing to. Is
Yeah,
that you're
no.
saying that there's people who don't pay and there's people who do pay.
I think
So
what we're saying
this
is
is why
there-
I'm just throwing that
yeah.
question out there.
Janet, there are people who don't pay with money, but they pay it with services.
Yeah.
There aren't
So
people who
then-
use the space that just don't pay.
So
other than-
bartering.
A funeral.
So bartering.
Right, yeah, with a barter system.
Okay, all right. So then that leads to a second question, a follow-up.
Yeah.
What would I need to barter with you all
Mm-hmm.
to be able to utilize the space? What I can offer is working within the arts realm, providing a class or providing guidance for arts projects that are happening within the town. That is something that I can barter, which that service as a professional artist facilitator would definitely be equivalent to hundreds of dollars.
Right.
So if there's a barter that can be worked out while you all are figuring out the new structure of the rental agreement, etc., would that be something that we can discuss and come to an agreement on sooner than later?
Yeah, probably. I have a quick question, Janet, as a follow-up too, is I wonder if, I feel like there would be value in bringing the library into this conversation and see if there's some avenue through them. And I don't have that fleshed out entirely, but we can talk about that independent of this meeting, and see, because I know you've done work with them already, and you've done workshops
Yes.
with the library, and maybe there's an avenue there that could be a good approach.
And there's already things in the works that, you know, we want to do together, we meaning the library and
Yeah.
myself. So that is a good idea.
Let's
to
bring
be able
Marie
to
into the
work
conversation, and then I can say that, you know, we do have a busy budget season, and we're coming up on holidays, so it feels challenging to talk about some of these things in detail. But it sounds like Rebecca's bringing this new rental agreement to us pretty soon, and that it is sort of part of a budget season conversation, so we can at least have a conversation around structuring payment sooner rather than later, which hopefully means we're not putting off a decision for too long. And I don't know what our agenda looks like, but I think we're thinking about adding a meeting for the 29th, which would be a regularly scheduled meeting.
Right.
During which we would do this kind of work. And I think there's probably value in that. So it could be as soon as the end of the month, if not, you know, moving into January. In the interim, let's have a conversation with Marie and Rebecca as far as what a barter could look like, if there are services that the library needs, you know, with after-school programming or something like that, or maybe it's volunteering at the library. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to think outside the box.
No,
here, 'cause
yeah.
I think it's important to be flexible. I agree, we need to be fair. Thank you for your proposal.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yes, sorry, Jim.
So, the display cases that were up there,
Yeah,
I had an agreement with a local architect to take those, but
Yeah.
that fell through. Maybe we could paint those so that we can't see them anymore. We can barter that.
Invisibility.
Make them
well,
disappear.
but this is interesting, Jim, because like what you're suggesting is in line with what Janet is saying. Is like, is there a service that we need that's within the realm of arts, right? And maybe that is a painting project, right? Maybe it is something like that that could pay for a certain number of days. Right?
Right,
And we recognize that means more time from you, and that is the challenge here. So, wanting to be mindful of that. So let's put our heads together, let's pull Marie into the conversation, and loop back with Rebecca on what that could look like in the interim, and we'll let you know when we put it on the agenda again.
Yeah, Maria's seen the proposal.
Yes, I know that you've talked with Marie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to Marie and Amanda. They're very supportive of me being able to utilize the space, but obviously is a collective conversation. And then coming back now with this alternative, it's just moving forward. So
yeah, let's keep the ball rolling, and we'll connect outside the meeting and discuss what will be on the agenda again.
Thank you, Rebecca, Harvey, Haley, Joel, Devin, and whoever else is in the room.
Yes, thank you,
so much,
Janet.
Janet. Thank you.
Okay.
Jean, did you have a comment?
Sorry, Jean.
I was just wondering, we keep talking about art, what kind of art was she doing and how much space does she need? I mean, it's a small space. Is it just painting?
She's there. She'll answer for
Is it,
herself.
Is it sculpture like Leonardo da Vinci's building?
Oh yes, she's carving marble upstairs.
So I'm just curious as to what space is needed.
Yes, sorry, I think she tells us a little bit about that in her proposal, but Janet, can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. Thank you for the question. So I'll give an example. First of all, I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and so I utilize photography, installation work, and performance. In this particular situation, I am creating 14 feet by 41 feet panels to be hung up in a gallery in Rockville, Maryland for a solo exhibition that's happening in July. I'm also creating structures using pallets, and I'm also doing a video work that I will not be able to do in that space on the second floor in the town hall. So within this sort of iteration of using a studio or being in a studio, I am actually putting together that large piece that I named first, as well as doing a mock-up structure for my palette, which will house a performance and will have different statements etched into the wood. And that's all I'll be doing here.
So those panels, I think you said 41 long by 15 tall, is that what you said?
Yes, and I'm probably going to do, they say it's 12 feet high, the ceilings in this place, but I need to account for, just what might be off. So 15 feet by 41 feet by 15 feet. If I did say 41 feet by 15 feet.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue the conversation. Town garage update. I don't think there is one. There is a meeting
on the next week.
15th?
Yeah.
With Andrew and the road crew, with our architecture firm to talk specifics.
Yep.
That's all I know.
Yep.
Other business.
We skipped town administrator.
Oh, sorry, town admin update. Yeah, I did.
We can skip that if you
Cross
want.
it off.
Crossed it right off.
All right.
Sorry, thank you. Again, middle of the night.
I guess. You're doing very well.
Did I misread the agenda tonight that we were going to discuss progress on the garage? Or was that-
We just did town garage update, which I shouldn't have done because I
Oh.
skipped Rebecca. And I said there isn't one.
Oh,
We haven't done anything.
No.
There's a meeting scheduled with the architecture firm and Andrew, and I think maybe one or two of his crew members.
I think it's all of them,
All
just
of
to
them.
get some details.
To talk logistics and
Mhm.
details on usability and
okay. Well,
functionality.
We basically leave it on the agenda just so that if there is an update, we can give one.
Well, I just wanted to hand out some information. I did a pretty good analysis of the information provided by RE, and some of the costs that being projected are way out of line in regards to what current payments and so forth. So I made a spreadsheet. I believe I discussed some of this in an email I never got a response for, but these are what RE is charging.
It's re-arc, just so you know.
I just abbreviated it, thank you.
You're welcome.
And their cost, and one column talks about what they're charging and what the reasonable actual costs are in the state of Vermont. And this, the second column there really is trying to saying if you're paying somebody a foreman $109,000, that would be an annual salary. That's what it would be for 26 weeks, half. But actually, it's wrong because they're charging $109 for a foreman for 26 weeks. So actually, it would be 200 and something thousand. The average salary for a foreman on the high end is $85,000. So that's just an idea. When you look at the superintendent, they're charging $63,000. But when you look at Vermont going to different sources, that salary for a superintendent is $150,000. Now, a friend of mine who's a builder in Boston says if you're going to pay a superintendent $263,000, they're a professional engineer and they're building a skyscraper. So there are some cost differences in here that I just ask you to take a look at and see if you can negotiate some of those. It's property management. So I was a certified project manager for IBM, and I did an $80 million project developing the nation's first automatic telemachine network. So I'm very familiar with cost and project management. So I'm just saying that some of these costs, in my view, and I talked to the guy from our REARCH, and I said, that's kind of high. I mean, and he goes, well, the board approved it. That was his answer. So, and then
this is really helpful, though, Gene,
Just take a look
and
at
something that is, thank you for helping inform us as we move through this
Right.
process, and I think we can absolutely have this conversation. Can I ask a quick question that
Sure.
I don't understand? Under construction cost, what is building? When you say building under construction cost, what is that referring to?
So they're building, going through just the walls and a roof,
So the shell.
just the shell.
Just the
Is
shell.
$1,229,000.
1.229.
So just for the
Shell.
shell, and the concrete, and the other, I mean, there was
I want to say
Right.
also, as someone in the business of construction, having read some of the state published figures, specifically through their conversations about sponsoring housing
right.
and people developing housing, their numbers are really low, like wrong low. And I think it might be a product of, I was really surprised that when they were talking about their per square foot costs. I think it's a product of how long it takes them to move through a study. So they start with numbers and like whatever.
No,
it is,
I understand
25.
that. I mean,
So there are lots of factors, and this is super helpful.
right. And
Yeah.
the only
Especially
other
the
thing I
wages,
would
that
talk
is
about is
Yeah.
$1 million for HVAC system for a 120-foot building, which I can't understand why the building's just not plain old square. That's just crazy. I mean, if I
That's
just,
something we are already in conversation about,
perfect.
and moving through that conversation really mindfully. The one thing that keeps coming up is, do we want to move forward with energy independence and renewable energy? And that's the thing that often drives the cost higher on install and lower in operating costs.
if you look
So-
at I just want to provide that information for you guys.
Thank you.
I mean, and I compared it to other projects. I just looked at, they built a firehouse, 21,000 square foot firehouse in North Carolina, which houses a training center, office, a school. It only cost them $15 million, 21,000 square. And I just went up to Williston. I'm getting their number for their firehouse, which is huge with the training tower. So I always try to put things in perspective, what am I paying for versus a $6 million house. Can you imagine building a $6 million house? How big is that? 8,000 square feet, marble floors, radiant heat flooring everywhere, big swimming pool. And then we're talking about this building that's just a square metal building. So again, I just provided that information. It gave me an opportunity to practice using a spreadsheet again.
Thank you.
And I want to
Gene.
thank you guys for two reasons. One, I went to the GIS system and you changed it.
Yay.
Yay, and it's good,
Thank
right?
you.
It's
I
good.
proposed that to the select board before you came on board, that same company, and they didn't want to even listen.
Yeah.
So you did a great job on that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the way you're trying to organize and manage our books so they're clear and concise, I think that's brilliant. So thank you very
Yeah.
much.
We're trying.
Thanks, Gene.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for the help on this. This is great. Okay,
Okay, I'll be quick.
you got a puppy.
Got a puppy, and
There's no helping it.
I'm nuts. Anyways,
The world's cutest puppy.
yeah. I've been gathering budget information and working with our vendors to secure updated pricing for 26. As I mentioned in my email earlier today, we should probably plan to hold one more meeting after the 16th to finalize any COLA or salary adjustments so that Dana has all of that information and then just finalize some business before the end of the year. So we can talk about that, before we are done the meeting. The property management scope of work project, we had one interested party that attended the site visit on the 21st. I received an email today saying that one additional firm will be present for the December 19th, but otherwise it's been sort of crickets.
But it's not due yet.
But it's not due yet, it's not due until January 9th.
Harvey's working on his proposal.
Great.
We get a big
That might be a conflict of interest. Want to thank everyone who braved the cold for the Route 100 North Main Street sidewalk. We had a great turnout and a very productive conversation. And we'll wait to hear back from VHB with their recommendations.
I did see Karen checking out the whole sidewalk
Yes,
area.
yeah, she stayed for almost 45 minutes. She sent me an email.
Cool.
So she
How did that go?
It went great.
Sidewalk.
It was really good.
It was really great. We had a great turnout. She
Yay!
was- yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Oh, I
And so
love
she
that.
had also done her homework with, Dan who's working on the town garage,
Yep.
with Misha, with the Route
Excellent.
100, yeah, so she was great.
I'm so
She was
excited
great.
to hear about all of that.
Yeah, it was really good conversation.
Yeah.
All of the employees enrolled in the town's health insurance, submitted their forms on time, and everything's been submitted to Eiler's office for processing with MVP for a January 1 start. So I just wanted to update everybody on that. I appreciate everybody's quick turnaround and getting their forms back to me, so that was great. I've asked Vickery Hill to create a dedicated short-term rental page on the town's website so that all of the related information is centralized and easy for people to
Excellent.
access. As Misha mentioned, we're actively working to facilitate the Sugar Bush Access Road path. We had a meeting last week. The NEPA application has been completed, and we're beginning conversations with abutters regarding rights of way before moving into final design. And our next meeting is scheduled for the 15th. I've scheduled Parent Construction to evaluate bridge number 30 on Main Street near Trout Hollow, which is part of what came up in the conversation with Karen on Saturday. The state's report lists the bridge as being in fair condition with minor section loss, cracking, and spalling. And I'll keep you updated as we approach receiving an estimate. I just sort of wanted to get that from Parent before we got too deep
And
into
when
budget
he
season.
was here working on the sidewalk, he said he could look at that bridge
Correct.
and give us some ideas
Right.
about what pedestrian crossings could
Correct.
be. Like, is it feasible to hang a pedestrian sidewalk off the side? What would the improvements
Yeah.
be? What improvements would be required, et cetera? So maybe while
Yeah.
he's looking at that,
Exactly.
we could
Yeah.
powwow about that a little bit.
Yep.
Can I ask one question on bridges?
Yeah.
So we have, it's like $500,000 in bridge now.
Really expensive.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but we have some money in
We
the
do.
budget for bridges.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah.
really expensive.
Big time.
Yeah, that's a down payment.
Yeah, right. But for repairs, and Parent does seem to be
Yes.
reasonable,
Right.
so
Exactly.
might be good.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I'm working on an updated town hall rental agreement and hope to have something for you all soon. And then I'd like to keep the Lincoln Gap conversation going. Right now we have Perry Bigelow and Sam Crotinger as the two Lincoln Gappers. And just wondering if there's anybody from the select board that would like to be a part of that group besides Andrew and myself before we move forward and schedule our first meeting. So, I don't know if, you know,
I think we should have someone from the select board as a member of that group. Anyone wanna volunteer?
Want to be a Lincoln Gapper?
wanna
Yeah.
be a Lincoln Gapper task
Honorary
force.
Lincoln Gapper.
I probably live the closest, though.
You do. And you're gonna get the roundabout traffic when they start going the other ways.
I'll be a Lincoln Gapper with you.
Where are you?
I live on the access road.
Oh,
Same problem.
Great.
Harvey,
Great.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And then last but not least, we have depleted our ARPA funds account. And so we still have, some money that, for the town garage payments, they've been paid, but, we just need to know where we need to take that money from going forward. So I think it's a conversation, you know, that we need to have about a possible bond anticipation note with the bank. You know, we just received an invoice from Weeman Lanford for $42,000.
And we're out of ARPA funds to pay for it.
Correct.
Oh, well, we should do that sooner rather
Yeah,
than later.
exactly. So, just
Yes,
something.
Perry's gonna pay it, he just offered.
no, I didn't know
Great.
that. Just a question on the short-term rentals and the, what do we call it? Permit?
The rollout
the
of
permit, the
that
rollout,
application.
How we coming on that?
Carrie is,
Where are
hoping to get that letter out by the end of the week,
we?
so.
So when the letter goes out, the application will be live.
Correct.
And people will be able to start
Yep,
actually registering.
yep, exactly.
Do you want somebody's eyes on the application to see if there's anything missing?
Like, I think you just
Jerry
looked
was
at it.
gonna send me a link so we could practice, so
Yeah.
we could send a couple people through it.
Yep.
Perry, it'd be helpful
Yeah.
if we had more than one person, just say, okay,
Yeah.
so,
From a short-term renter.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
that would be great.
just
Yeah.
to practice.
Yep, yeah, I'll keep you posted as I hear back from Carrie.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Perry.
she's just waiting for, a few more things from Granicus, just to make sure that, you know, we've dotted all our i's and crossed all our t's. And then, you know, we're closer than we were 2 weeks ago, so, but yeah. That's it for me.
Let's make sure we put, a BAN on the next agenda, at
Okay.
least, so that we can get funds rolling for paying Weeman Landfair.
Yep. I will do it right now.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Rebecca. And when do we have a follow-up with the sidewalk situation? From VHB, do we know? When
She didn't say.
She didn't say.
Should give timing.
We didn't have any anticipated.
Seemed like it was pretty soon.
Okay, cool.
Oh, good. Updates are underway, so that means that everybody that was on there got bumped off.
Oh,
Or you hit boom.
Okay.
that's fun.
Yep. At
We,
least there's 3 people here still.
It's okay. We are finished with your update. Is there any other business? Any other business? No. Let's signature stuff. Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Okay, minutes of November 12th,
That's executive session.
18th. Yeah, sorry, minutes of November 12th and 18th.
We were gonna sign those last Tuesday, but we have run over, so that's why there's a lot in here.
May we approve, motion to approve? Second. I'll second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's just us. This is the conflict of interest. If you could, you already did. Harvey, if you could sign that for us, please. It's already been adopted. Okay, payroll. Should we call Katie?
Okay, I'm checking it right now.
Okay. Carol?
Move to approve payroll for $160,675.87.
Second.
Hi.
All those in favor? Okay, is that the last one? No, that's accounts payable. Payroll, accounts payable. Okay, 4 of them?
Did we all in favor?
Yes, we did.
John's here to be our witness. Okay, and accounts payable, Joel?
Move to approve accounts payable for $1,877,171.00. No cents.
What did we pay? Okay, so it's this one,
Is this one right?
it's this big one,
That
and this one for 64, and this one for 27.
How do we get to $1 million?
Cause there's a tax payment. 1.87. There's a tax payment.
We paid Harwood?
Yep. There's like a 1.6 million. Sorry, here's another one. Yep. Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
1.6
It's Harwood.
to Harwood. Yep. Sorry, there are even more.
Yeah,
That one,
there's
so
like
there are
five. Yep. There's all the tax overpayments.
How did Granite Rock Development overpay 26,000?
They probably had,
It was some big number.
yeah, I think that they have quite a large tax payment.
Yeah.
And typically what happens is if you have your mortgage escrowed or your taxes escrowed, the bank just pays one lump sum, and then at the end of the year, Dana has to figure out, overpayments, and that's what that is.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the number again?
$1,877,171.
Yep.
Is there signatures on this one or this
Do
one?
we,
I think it's on the front page.
do we,
Oh, we signed the front?
Yep.
wait, second?
Aye.
All those in favor?
I slept the full
Aye.
night last night.
Joel, can I just have that just because Carol won't be, she won't be able to get this, thank you.
So does that mean that our Zoom meeting was like
Ended.
erased?
No, it wasn't erased, it'll be saved,
You guys both do this one.
but fortunately John is here, so.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you, John, for being here. Okay,
That's part of what the tax overpayments are,
oh,
It's
that's
basically just
why
the-
it
the
was
proofs.
stapled.
yeah,
Sorry.
exactly,
Okay.
messing up my groove here.
That's it. Move to enter executive session
There's
for.
liquor licenses in there,
There are?
sorry, yep,
Where?
in here, in Brent's little, I think he now gives you the,
I thought, I guess, doesn't that live in here?
no, see,
Okay, well,
sorry.
never mind yet. Do the overpayment. This is fine with this. I'm sorry, Rebecca, I shouldn't have undone
You're fine,
the
I'm
thing.
just picking on you.
Okay, liquor licenses. Vermont Hard Seltzer Company, Hardwick, Vermont, special events permit for 3/21/2026, 11 to 3. Where?
321?
Does it say on the back? He put location on his special little note.
Ah. SFD Sugarbush, 102 Forest Drive. Anybody know what that is? Forest Drive?
Yeah, that's Claybrook.
For Claybrook.
Oh.
Claybrook.
Yeah.
So
They're doing something at Claybrook?
we're having a special event with Vermont Hard Seltzer. Great.
Is it in the, it's probably
In March.
It's probably in the courtyard.
Yeah.
It's probably in the
Yeah.
courtyard. It's fine with me.
Sounds good. I like hard seltzer.
So do we move to approve?
Do we move to approve it?
Move to approve.
Do y'all move
first
to approve it?
and third.
Special events permit.
Special events permit for
Vermont
Hard
Hard
Seltzer
Seltzer
Company
Company.
LLC.
At Sugarbush,
That should be-
Claybrook specifically. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is this? It's in Vermont, okay, sorry.
You should applaud them for getting the permit happening so early.
Yeah, look at that. Okay, and first class restaurant and bar for Sugarbush Mountain Resort.
Tucker.
Oh, yeah, they're keeping that open at night.
They want a first class and a third class.
Friday and Saturday, they're staying open to close.
Friday and Saturday, they're staying
Staying open
open.
late.
What does that mean?
They said they label it as they're staying open until they close, but late night.
So legally, they can only stay open until 2, but I think we have a town noise ordinance at 10. Who knows? Nobody knows.
It's a certain decibel and the whole,
Is there a-
it's very complicated.
Motion to approve?
Yes, yeah,
To approve
yeah.
Tucker having a liquor license.
First and third.
First and third class license.
Second.
Mr. Rich.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah,
It's a good test of our mouth every time. Geez.
we're learning, slowly but surely. We're learning.
That's why Brent gives you your handy dandy little sheet. But
Now I
just
get it
tape to
every
the front.
time.
I know.
Pop quiz. Who made this Vermont seal?
You.
I don't know.
What is all this?
What, those are all the signed things?
God.
Are those the
Okay.
signed things?
Can
Brian?
you give
Yeah,
Harvey
those
the,
I did,
oh, okay, great.
and I think that means it's in this pile of
Great.
things. Okay, move to enter executive session for real estate.
So I'll sign.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I second that.
We gotta call,
Awesome,
we gotta
all
call
those in
Sheila
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
and Kaylee.
Thank you, John.
Thank